Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also best-selling author. And every single day, I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have a great guest. He is somebody I've seen a lot on virtual conferences, virtual webinars, and every time I see him speak, especially when it comes to the subject of real estate, he's an absolute expert. I'm very excited to have him here because he is so passionate, adds lots of great value, has lots of great impact, and it's always great to speak to people like that. But not only is he a real estate expert, he is a flight engineer, a systems engineer. He served for the DoD, he served for the Navy. He has over 3,500 flight hours in his back pocket, which is absolutely amazing. And he loves to impact as many people as he can in a positive way. And in one of those ways is to provide those real solutions in real estate, whether it's acquisitions, renovations, or resale of residential properties, and generating those attractive investment returns for his clients. So please welcome Senior Managing Partner of SOMD Investment Partners, real estate investor, entrepreneur, Mr. EUGENE Aragon.
Well, thank you, Fong. I greatly appreciate that. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time and for being here. And I got to address this right away. One of the reasons why I really wanted you on my show is I knew that you were involved in flight somewhere, but also in business, because every time I see you, your background is amazing. Either something's exploding, something's launching, something in the cockpit like that. It's always eye-catching. So once again, thank you very much for being here. But before we get into the tough questions, a easy question for you right now is, I know you're in real estate, but before that, you had this whole other life as an engineer, flying all these hours. Share with us that story. How did you go from serving for the DoD, being a flight engineer, and then now being a business owner and doing real estate?
Well, that's a very good question, Fong. Thank you. I appreciate that. So back in the early days of my life as a teenager, there was always this little voice in the back of my head. And after high school, I went to college for half a semester, realized that that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do at the time. And so I chose to join the Navy. So I went to the Navy recruiter, went to the office in Amarillo, Texas, because I was in New Mexico at the time. And aviation has always piqued my interest, with my dad being in the Air Force and going to air shows for years as we were growing up. I always had a love and enjoyment for the aviation field. So that's where I got started in the Navy. I went to boot camp, went to educational school to be an aviation electrician's mate at the time, and then learned about aircrew school, and then went to aircrew school and then got orders to Virginia to fly in helicopters as a crewman. So I got qualified on that. And then that translated to going to P3s. So that's where I become a P3 flight engineer. And actually, the background that you're seeing is the cockpit of a P3.
Wow.
So that was my office for so many years. One of the best office views, in my opinion, aside from flying up higher in altitude, as well as being in a space shuttle or something like that and flying in space. So I consider that one of the best office views I've ever had, and I miss it. So yeah, I really enjoy having the background and being able to see it.
and then from there, how did you decide to get into real estate?
Okay, well, as I had mentioned, there was always this little voice in the back of my head ever since I can remember being a teenager, that there was always something else out there that I wanted to be able to achieve. And then around the 2010, 2011 timeframe, a friend of mine passed away, and I started to do a reassessment of everything that I've done up to that point and looking to do something different. So at that time, I had the opportunity to become part of a group that was called the Elevation Group. And the gentleman who created that group, his name was Mike Dillard, and I considered him like my first business mentor per se. So he kind of helped open up my eyes to other different perspectives and being able to start businesses. And then from there, I was turned on to Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I had heard about that book and Robert for years, but never sat down and read the book. So I read the book, and then the rest from there is history. So I got the real estate bug, realizing that that is something that really interested me. And the renovations that we've done, it's awesome and outstanding. I like seeing a transition of a property from an ugly duckling to a beautiful swan and everything involved with that aspect.
Mhm.
And so I like doing that. And when I'm at the settlement table across from the buyers who have decided to close and purchase the property that we put together, and we had input into that, it's just, that is a great feeling for me to have at the settlement table, seeing the smiles on their faces and all the nice things that they say. And it's just, I really enjoy that.
Mhm. After so many years of being in like serving for the Navy, DoD, flying all over the place, there came a time where you had to make that decision between being still involved in that industry or jumping out and then becoming a real estate investor, your own business owner, and all that kind of stuff. How did you navigate through that? I'm sure there's lots of people who told you that it's scary, it's hard, don't do it, stick with what you know. But for some reason, you made that decision to jump into business. How was that done?
Yeah, and with everything that you just commented about, yes, I went through all those stages. Uh Scared. I'm still scared in some ways because I just recently retired from the Department of Defense as a systems engineer and jumping 100% into real estate. And I knew at some point that I was going to decide to retire, and I didn't want to just stop and not do anything. Still wanted to, that bug of being a business owner was still in the back of my mind because I like the idea of being able to work for ourselves and being able to pay things forward and to be able to help other people as well. So it was a very tough decision to make. And yeah, I'm still scared. However, with the community and everybody I'm involved with, that helps me continue to go forward and do that.
What's more scary, going up on your first flight or doing your first business deal?
I would have to say my first business deal, believe it or not.
Did it help because you had all that background in flying? Like that mindset of going out there and serving, that mindset, did that help you transition in business?
Yes, yes, because there's so many synergies between flying and being a systems engineer for Department of Defense and active duty military to business. There's still the risk aspects that are involved. So with all the education that I've accumulated learning real estate, there's synergy and similarities in all aspects, in my opinion. And that's one of the other things I that attracted me to becoming a business owner and attracting me to the real estate industry was the systems piece. Because as a systems engineer for the Department of Defense, we look at the whole system, not just the final product. We're looking at all the people that are involved. We're looking at all the pieces that interact. We're looking at the hardware, the software, all that stuff. And that's the systems perspective. So transitioning full time into the real estate industry, I see that as a system because there are so many aspects and so many moving pieces, and people are an important part of that system as well. And it's just, I really enjoy it because there's just so much similarity, so many similarities and so much synergy.
Mhm. Share with us your very first real estate deal. How did that go? What it was? How did you feel?
Okay. um, Back in 2011, 2012 timeframe, that, as I was describing, I lost a friend of mine and reassessed and everything. And that's when I started my real estate education. So for me, it was important, if I was going to make this big step, it was important to me to become educated because I wanted to understand the theories, and learning from others in the industry who had done things, and kind of learn from the lessons that they've learned and that they've taken the time to put together and share. because for me to start doing something like that, I realized early that I was going to be impacting everybody's life, not only mine, but my family and everybody else that I interacted with. And it was important for me to be educated so I could understand that, so I would reduce the possibility of making mistakes. You know, I did make some mistakes, still going to make mistakes, because that's another opportunity to learn. So it took about roughly 2 years for us to do our first deal. And I can remember sitting in many classes, listening to other investors, and they were talking about, oh, well, it only took me 3 months to do my first deal and things like that. So I heard that and I was like, well, that's awesome for you. However, this is what I've decided to do. So in some ways, I was putting together a rocket ship per se, and there's so many pieces and so many aspects of the system that are involved with that. So eventually, when we got to the point to do our first deal, we did a wholesale deal. We assigned it to another local investor, and so once we had the property under contract, we did our renovation estimate. I called the rehabber and talked with him, and then we went to settlement, and that whole process was pretty simple and pretty smooth. And after we were done, I remember walking out of the settlement company, walking to my car and thinking, wow, that was easy. However, I felt that way because of all the steps and all the education I've gotten prior to that. If I didn't have any of that, I don't know if I would have felt like it was really easy. I enjoyed the whole process. And like I said, everything lined up and it seemed easy at that point, but there was a lot of time and hard work that went into it before that. So does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's always the saying from real estate investors that, oh, if you smell like animals, if you can smell this, you can smell that, that's a good deal. Usually there's some pretty interesting properties that people walk into. For myself, one of the most interesting places I've walked into, we call it the bowling ball house. We walked up the stairs, turned to our right, and we saw a big hole on the wall. And then over here, there's a big hole in the wall with the bowling ball still enlarged into the wall. So
Oh man.
is there a property that's very vivid in your mind that you walked in there and go, wow, this is unheard of?
Not yet. The properties that we've walked into haven't had a bowling ball on a wall. That would be something. I do recall the second project that we did. It did have a little bit of a funny smell. It was a HUD foreclosure property, but overall the property was still in decent condition. You know, there were no other extremely funny smells or anything like that. So we haven't come across one of those type properties yet.
Mhm.
I'm thinking at some point in the future we would. It's just a matter of time.
Well, one of the things that a lot of clients come up to me and talk about when it comes to real estate, especially for those who have a background in engineering or they're in the medical field and whatnot, they go, well, I don't have any contacts. I don't know these people. I don't know contractors. I don't have wholesale buyers. I don't have all this stuff. And for somebody like yourself, you've built that network, being able to go to networking events and connecting with people, building relationships. Was that something that was easy for you? Or was this something that you kind of gradually kept within your circle of influence to begin with and then kind of expanded from there?
What you just commented about. So I kept it closer with the closer circle of influence, and then expanded it at that point. Because as I was sharing earlier, when I decided to make the transition and get educated, I was 100% on getting educated.
Yeah.
And so there were periods where I had that smaller circle of influence and, you know, soaked in as much knowledge as I could, because again, from the education piece, I didn't necessarily feel like I was ready to expand any further than what I currently had. So slowly expanded it out, and with everything that I'm continuing to learn and doing, as JT talks about, doubling down and tripling down on my relationships. And I'm able to do that more now than I was before, because with all the balls I was balancing, And another thing I just wanted to share real quick on what I've mentioned earlier. So I learned for myself late last calendar year that I'm not able to multitask professions. So I've been struggling over the years with being full-time Department of Defense and part-time real estate investor. I had so many inner struggles that I had to overcome, and finally came to the realization late last calendar year that for me, I'm not able to multitask professions. I'm either 100% in or I'm not. So that was another piece of the puzzle that helped with the final decision that I made. Like, I need to retire from Department of Defense so I can go full-time real estate industry. And as I mentioned, I'm doubling down, tripling down on my relationships, because since I'm 100% in the real estate industry pool, that's what I want to do, and that's what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Was there something that you found out that you needed to work specifically on when it comes to like communications and also relationship building that you thought, hey, you know what? It's not that hard until you actually realize, oh, I'm missing these pieces.
Yeah, and that's a very good question. And for me, it's a lot of personal development and realizing. I realized years ago, and still realize, that communication is one of the critical pieces between human beings, between us. And so there have been many situations that I've found myself in where I think that I'm communicating clearly enough, but then I do a reassessment of that and realize, well, maybe I'm not communicating clearly enough, because it doesn't necessarily seem the feedback and the behaviors that I'm expecting to receive is not occurring. So how do I need to repackage my message per se and communicate that? So every single day, I don't know how many seconds of the day, but there's multiple seconds, multiple minutes, or whatever, reassessing and continuing to work on myself. And that to me is important, and communication is important as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to real estate, there's always that comment from people saying, "Oh, it's not the right time right now," or "It's the perfect time right now." Is there actually, in fact, the best time or not a good time, or do you create those deals to make it work?
That is another good question as well, because yeah, I agree with you. I've heard that over years also. However, I'm of the opinion, as I continue to learn, and I've heard from, JT and many others, that there's always the time. It's you being able to put everything together to help create a deal that makes sense, as well as you have come up with a way to solve a problem, challenge, or what have you for a person or people that need to sell a piece of real estate. They're in a situation where they need help, and we are able to think about ways to help them out of their situation. So, I mean, real estate is a great opportunity and it's a great business. But one of the things I keep in mind is I want to be able to do the best that I can for the people that I'm involved with, the prospective clients, sellers, or what have you. And I've heard certain people talk about, money as a tool and things like that. And that's one of the things that I'm not necessarily 100% focused on. However, it is part of the process. It's part of the package. So when I'm able to provide good value and help somebody out of their situation, then, that is a good way to be able to earn the income and build your company, build your personal wealth, and things like that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally. When it comes to investing in real estate, there's lots of people who would like to jump into real estate. First timers, they're learning, they want to get into that first deal. We're going to jump into some numbers here. In your opinion, what do you believe is some of the most easiest types of first timer properties that people can invest in? Like for instance, this price range or this type of property, this type of amount of renovation. Like how do you assess that deal first as the best first deal for somebody?
That's a good question as well. So as I've learned, and as I'm sure you've learned, and we hear, all real estate is local. So it depends. It depends on your market. So I'll use our market here as an example. So what I would consider good deals around here in our area are properties in the price range where you have a bigger buyer's pool. And around here, for an example, that is between $200,000 and $300,000. Single family residence, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and also depending on what zip code and what subdivision and things like that. So when a property is either off market or on the NMLS, as an example, I said NMLS, my bad. I'm thinking the loan officer aspect. Sorry. So when I see properties on the MLS, or I get leads in from sellers who have a property, when we go into the property and see that it's an older house, everything is outdated, and there could be issues with the air conditioning, with the heat pump. They could have issues with their plumbing or electrical and things like that. So when we see things like that, we realize it is more of an opportunity. And so from a first-time investor perspective, provided they have someone that's helping them along and they have a little bit of a fundamental education to help put together a package to be able to assign it to a local renovator or what have you, as long as they have that fundamental and they're able to put the information together, put the numbers together, put the pictures together, that provides them a better opportunity to do their first deal. And for the new investors around here, I've actually been talking with someone and helping them through the process. It's been a few years since they started their education per se, so I'm kind of helping walk them through the process to get to the point where they can make that realization that I was just kind of explaining, and they have that, oh yeah, this looks like a good opportunity, but I need to do all these things first before I can present it to the rehabber per se. So they got to make sure their due diligence is good.
Right. Now, for someone like yourself who has lots of systems in place, I'm sure that you cross your T's, dot your I's, you want to know everything all in detail to make sure things are risk-free, and also you have plan A's, plan B's, plan C's, and all that kind of stuff. But still, there are lessons learned when things don't go accordingly. Is there something that did not go according to plan that was the best lesson that you've ever gotten when it comes to real estate?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which one do you want me to share?
Well, the one that comes to mind is our third project. And in retrospect, to do bottom line up front, executive summary, we bought it too high. So we got the property, we got it under contract, we purchased it, and our rehab budget was off base. We were off with our rehab estimate by $20,000. So it wouldn't have been that bad. However, we had the first buyer on our property bug out. And so we had to put it back on the market. And then for some reason in that area, it was just a slow transitory transition to whatever else was going on in that area. And the holding costs added up, kept going up. And so eventually we got a second buyer, closed on the property. But we made sure with that project that our money partners were taken care of, and they were. So that was the first loss for our company. And I wasn't pleased by that. So like I said, went back and reassessed everything and came to the realization that we should have bought it lower than we initially did because of the rehab budget being over budget. So even though the first buyer flaked out or what have you, if we would have been able to purchase it for where we should have purchased it at, our company would have made a little bit of money. But the important thing was making sure that everybody else that helped us with that project was taken care of. And that was what we made sure that we did. And so, yeah, so that just reinforced to me that the math doesn't lie, and need to make sure we stick with the numbers, the formula, and everything else that we've kind of helped put together with that formula. Because there's like 3 or 4 mathematical ways that I've learned over the years to kind of to help fine tune that, hey, this is where we need to get the project at. And as long as we're here and our renovation budget is here, we should be in a position to protect our clients that we work with and our company.
Mhm. I know you work with a lot of different partners. You also work with investors. What are the types of projects or types of clients that are perfect for a partnership between you and them?
Oh, that's a good question. So one of the projects that we have done, we worked with hard money lenders and we work with a private money lender. So the private money lender that we worked with, they were familiar with real estate, and they had some self-directed retirement funds that they wanted to use and be able to gain more interest on their income rather than sitting in a money market, certificate of deposit, or what have you. So when we got a project and we presented it to them, we negotiated the terms to help satisfy them, principal, interest, and things like that. So the perfect clients for us are those who are looking for opportunities to be a little bit more risk mitigated with their funds per se, and being able to earn higher interest on their money than rather than having it in a savings account, money market, CD, or what have you, and they don't want to work in the stock market. So those are the ideal clients from a private lender perspective that our projects would be able to help satisfy.
Nice. And what would be the best way for people to reach out to you when it comes to that kind of stuff?
Right now, our website is www.southernmarylandinvestments.com, but Southern Maryland is SOMD, and we're transitioning to a different state, so we'll have a different company name within the next 2 months. But for right now, that's how they can contact us, and they can also contact me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as Eugene Gino Aragon, and you can also find me on Facebook as Gino Aragon.
Mhm. Great. Now, for somebody who's retired, had a great career when it comes to flight engineering, systems engineer, lots of people go, "You're retired. Why not just, have fun and relax and all that kind of stuff?" But you're a person who loves to keep on growing, keep on learning. You're jumping into different businesses now. What is that mindset, or how do you create that mindset that allows you to keep on going, to keep motivated every single day?
Oh, that's a good question. That reminds me of some of the things, the books that I've read. I've read many books from Napoleon Hill. I've read Law of Success, a 1925 edition. I've read Think and Grow Rich. I've listened to personal development audios from Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, and I want to be able to continue to learn. I consider myself a student of everything for the most part. My favorite subject is history, but I'm also a student of business and a student of personal development. And I can remember one quote from Bruce Lee that resonates with me. And basically, the quote is centered around the aspect of personal development and working on mastering yourself. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to master who I am during my lifetime, because there's just so many things that I'm still learning about myself and challenging myself. I want to be able to continue to keep my mind sharp and pay things forward and help other people to learn and things like that, because that is, to me, that's a very important aspect, is to keep the brain moving. And I still have fun. I think for me, the business aspect is fun. I don't consider it work because, as I was mentioning with the first deal that we did and walking out and saying that was easy, it was fun. And as I mentioned, the transition from ugly duckling to beautiful swan, that is just it's hard for me to put words behind that. I really enjoy that feeling of accomplishment and working with all the people that were involved with that project. And as I mentioned, sitting across the settlement table and having that buyer of what you helped have an impact with, that's just, for me, it's just hard to describe. I can't find many words for it. It feels good being able to do something like that. And it's important for me to keep my mind sharp.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people that you've helped is very, very lucky to have connected with you, because if it wasn't for you having that mindset and always wanting to grow and impact people, they would not be where they are today. So
Thank you.
it's absolutely amazing what you've done. Now, if we were to put you on the world stage and you have one message to share for everybody to remember Gino for, what would that one message be?
Well, that's another good question, Fong. You've asked quite a few good questions today. I guess one of the things that I've kind of touched on over our conversation today is always finding time and a way to work on yourself. And that also reminds me of one of the songs that Michael Jackson wrote, produced, and put together. It's like The Man in the Mirror, the human in the mirror. If you want to make a change in this world, look in the mirror. It's important for all of us to be able to do that and realize more about, we need to make changes to ourselves and able to go forward and help make changes into the world. Because as I understand it, there's only one planet within our solar system that can sustain our way of life. So it's very important for us to be able to make changes, look ourselves in the mirror, and go forward from that. So that's one of the messages that I would like to share.
Awesome. Well, those are good words to live by, and one of my favorite songs as well. Now, before I let you go, I got a few quick questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. So you landed in a deserted island. One food for the rest of your life, no consequence. What would that be?
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti. You are jumping out of an airplane. We talked about this before. You're parachuting, skydiving, whatever it is, and this is an awesome photo op. What is one thing that you would like to bring with you so that it could be in the photo with you?
Oh boy.
It doesn't have to be realistic either. So if you go, I would love to have my car with me, that's fine too.
Well, since you put it that way, I would like to have a Superman next to me.
Awesome. Is there a skill set that not many people know about? Like, do you secretly like sing on the background, or you...
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm not a very good singer. I don't have very good pipes, but I do have a decent memory when it comes down to remembering songs from a decade I grew up in, the 80s. So a lot of 80s songs will come on and I'll listen to it for a few notes and I'll know what that song is. And so when I do things like that, people are like, "How'd you know that?"
Hollywood calls and goes, you know what, Eugene, we want to do a biopic of you, and you get to choose who gets to play your best friend. So who would be that star or celebrity that you would cast?
The first name that comes to mind is Kevin Costner.
Awesome. Kevin Costner shows up at your front door and goes, "Hey, I got the part. Let's get to know each other. Boy, I'm hungry." What do you serve him for dinner?
I would look to serve steak and spinach, asparagus, and let's see. Oh, and as hors d'oeuvres, shrimp cocktails.
Awesome. And my last question is, what is success like? But first, number between 1 to 5.
Oh man. Let me go with 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. So how is success similar or relatable to food?
Oh my goodness. Success related to food. I have to say, I'm not very creative per se. I'm more of a left brain. Let me see. Success to food. I would say food being similar to success is all the ingredients that are put together and cooked, broiled, what have you, to create the food dish. Let's say, for example, spaghetti. Everything that goes up into putting spaghetti together. And to me, being successful is all the ingredients that you put into play to get to the point where you achieve success. So, a completed spaghetti dish that would be similar to success.
Awesome, we got there. So that
Well,
is
thank
how
you. It took
success
me a
is
little
like
bit.
food. It's all
Oh
good.
man.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It was fun to get to know you. It was also fun to learn from you as well. Any last words that you would like to share? And again, any best ways to contact you?
Yeah. So from a contact perspective, you can always find me on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Facebook. And like I said, our company name, our company website, somdinvestments.com. But as I mentioned, we're in slow transition. So another thing that I would like to quickly share is with all the business owners out there and yourself too, Fong, let's continue to do what we do, continue to learn about us, and continue to pay things forward, being able to help out people that we come into contact with, building our own networks, as well as building a client base to continue to pay things forward. And then eventually we can continue to help make the world a better place. Because I think all of us need to keep that in mind because it's very important. We need to continue to make the world a better place, make ourselves better, make others better, and things like that. So that's the other thing I would like to share.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. It was joy. Lots of great fun. I look forward to seeing you live in person soon again. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Fong. I greatly appreciate it. And you going to make a success?
I'll be there.
I will be there too, sir.
Great. Well, for everybody else, here's Gino. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. We'll see you later.
All right. Thank you, Fong.
Awesome.